Snow is a 2010 horror novel by Ronald Malfi. I found this one some years back in my local bookstore. I think it was getting close to winter and they were starting to stock up on, snow and winter and Christmas related horror books. Not that there's a whole lot of them. There's actually a surprising lack of them from what I can see, or at least lack of ones that are currently in circulation. The book itself was pretty short as far as books go, about 217 pages. Not sure if that qualifies it as a novella or not, but the book is on the thinner side. I don't know, maybe the type is just small. Anyway, I gave it a read and ended up enjoying it a lot. It actually turned me on to Ronald Malfi overall, and I started reading a bunch of his other stuff too. There's a lot of his works that I could recommend, but since this was the first one I read and this video should be coming out during the snowy season, it felt right to make this recommendation before any of his other stuff. So the basic plot is that a major snowstorm hits the Midwest, and our protagonist, Todd, has to hitch a ride with three strangers, a lady named Kate, and a couple named Fred and Nan, to get home to Iowa from Chicago so he can spend time with his young son. The four go driving off into the storm and have to come to a stop when they nearly hit a guy with the car. He asks them for help finding his daughter, and the group ends up in a seemingly empty town that looks like it's been attacked by something. That's when things really kick off. First and foremost, I have to praise the core concept. Without spoiling, the title isn't just snow because it's set during the wintertime or during a snowstorm. It actually does play a significant role in how the threat in this story presents itself. The author could have chosen to do this concept without actually incorporating snow or the environment into the threat, but he did and I enjoyed it. It added nicely to the horror of the book. As for the horror, again, trying to avoid outright spoilers, if I had to compare Snow to any other horror properties, I would say it shares some features with Salem's Lot, in that the townspeople of Woodson change after encountering the threat, and also with 30 Days of Night. A group of characters surviving against a changed and hostile population is a major feature of both of these things. You might conclude from these two examples I've chosen that the major threat here is vampires, and here I will allow for a single spoiler. It's not vampires. It's something else entirely. Snow matches the vibes of Salem's Lot and 30 Days of Night in that it's the characters trying to sneak around town and combat the threat, but the actual nature of the threat is different. The horror kicks off pretty quickly. They encounter that guy on the road on page 21, and that's where the creepiness starts. Then on page 45, the big threat becomes apparent. So the book doesn't waste any time getting to the good stuff. I like that. I also enjoyed the characters well enough. There's the first four characters that depart from the airport, and then there are a few more added throughout the story as those original four encounter survivors. I wouldn't say that any of them are deeply characterized, but the two characters that get the most attention, Todd and Kate, they were decent enough. The remainder of the cast was pretty good, but Todd and Kate were probably the best developed. Incidentally, many of the cast end up dead throughout the story, though you'll have to read the book for yourself to find out who survives and who makes it out at the end. But I will say that I think it's because the story keeps moving pretty quickly and the action just kind of keeps moving things along. I think that's why we don't get a super deep look at the other characters. I think it's because it was kind of sacrificed in favor of keeping the story moving. We know what we need to know about them, and that's all that really matters. We don't need their full backstories. The ending, on that note, was a bit of a surprise. Not giving it away, but I did not think, given the way the events were unfolding across this book, that we would get an ending like that. It also very interestingly sets up perfectly for a sequel. So yeah, I recommend Snow. Unlike other books I've recommended this month, it's not specifically Christmas related, so you can enjoy it at any point during the snowy season. I'll probably recommend a few of his other books in the future, but in general, I recommend Ronald Malfi as an author. He's got some really good stuff. I definitely recommend going and checking him out.